Our next guest is John Badgley. John is a 5-year business agility coach and has more than 10 years of experience doing enterprise and portfolio agile coaching. Over the last 20 years, John has been a leader, coach, trainer, facilitator, and mentor at Landmark worldwide and has built a portfolio of Web 3.0, mobile, social, and e-commerce solution delivery. John has been an assistant professor and guest speaker at the New York University Tisch School of the Arts, and John is an author and speaker on G5 for enabling real change for people and companies. He is the founder and creator of Genesis, a lean, agile, customer-generated startup, and is founder, created, and game show host of Agile Fight Club, and has been involved with Meetup Groups for New York City Scrum Users, LESS, and XP. John is an incredible coach, and I've had several coaching conversations and discussions around personal agility and coaching over the years and with John, and I've been continuously impressed by his coaching ability and viewpoint on how to create real change for people and companies. Please welcome John Badgley.
Thanks, Maria.
John, how's it going?
Great, thanks for having me. Actually, first wanted to thank and acknowledge Dante Burst for clearing me for this opportunity as well, and for really the community of Agilists and Landmark leaders that have participated in really being a contribution to me.
John, I am so excited about this conversation we're about to have because you have inspired me from the first conversation that we had, and I would love to hear more about your background in coaching, the work you've done with Landmark, and then looking at how does that apply with organizations and companies that are moving toward Agile and coaching with Agile in the industry. Could you tell us a little bit more about how you got started in coaching and your work with Landmark?
Yes. So 25 years ago, I was part of a startup with Michael and Josh Kimberg, and was invited to an introduction, something that would change my life. They actually brought me to the forum. One of the things to note about Landmark Education is that they have a curriculum for living, and really starts from access to yourself, and then you would be looking at having an access to other people and looking to make a contribution to the world. So that's really kind of core for their curriculum for living. The results of their work are living with more power, freedom, full self-expression, and peace of mind. And really, the work that I guess you could say starts with a set of tools that come in the form of a vocabulary that we call distinctions. And with that distinction, you're able to literally cause a kind of a bringing forward of reality and an opportunity to see things distinctly for yourself. Transformation, something that is used regularly in the Agile space, is something that sources from transformational education with Landmark Worldwide. And transformation itself is actually something that is caused by using this distinction to enable an opportunity to see things distinctly, so that all of a sudden you have kind of a different view where new openings for action reveal themselves. And that's actually it causes a transformation for yourself and how you see it. It never goes back, and it happens in kind of a moment's notice. The new openings for action reveal themselves. You're able to take new actions to have new results. Life transforms in reality for you as a person. And from there, sharing those new results with other people, you have a transformation in life. And so really that's kind of the source for where the conversation around transformation comes from. Informational education is different than informational education. Informational education is, it's kind of additive. You take information, you add it in, it works because it's kind of an additive process. It gets you by, but transformational education is something that is actually more reductive. It's an opportunity to see those things that are in your way and get them out of the way so that you can optimize your performance. And I think that's really kind of a difference in the how it functions. It really is the going to work on yourself. You start as a participant at Landmark, and then you move to a coach. Um, and so after the curriculum for living, I went through a number of different seminars, and then was asked if I would be interested in the Introduction Leader program. So the Introduction Leader program has a format of, it's a 9-month program. It's highly intensive in terms of its calendar and scheduling. There are 2 sessions per year, and there are 120 people that enter the program. 10 of those will be candidated, meaning that they'll be offered the opportunity to become an introduction leader. I was one of those for my program, and I actually coached the program following my program to highest level effectiveness. A 4 out of 5 in my group were candidated themselves. So you move from participant to coach, and from coach to assistant coach, or assistant head coach, and then to head coach within that format. Really, so a coach, and I'll actually add this in, something to get about coach in the transformational education world is it starts with really your listening. So a coach by distinction is someone who is able to reliably listen in and make a difference for people in areas of life that are important to them. What's different about that is that it's coaching the whole person. It's coaching from listening rather than communication. It's coaching from making a difference for people in those areas of life that are important to them over you as a coach. And so becoming a coach for me was something that really was, it was a shift in everything about myself. After going through the curriculum for living and literally changing my life, literally changing my world, moving from participant to coach, put me in a position where having access to other people and making a difference for other people became something that I actually decided to take on as my purpose for being. So really, like, the who I am is this work.
And John, with our conversations over the last couple of years and the coaching sessions that you and I have had,
Yep.
you have just blown me away with your ability to really help bring clarity to certain areas that we might not be consciously thinking about as we think about
Yeah.
whatever you want to achieve or whatever's going on in your space and in your situation. Can you tell
Yeah.
us more about how you feel that what is it that you do that's unique, that is so effective? Because just the coaching sessions that I've had with you, I've been so incredibly inspired, and not everybody is able to go that deep. How are you able to go that deep into what's really important and meaningful? Can you tell us more about that?
So what's interesting is that if you heard the distinction coaching, it's areas of life that are important to you. People walk around in their life and they have things that they think about all the time that they either want for their life or they want to have out of their life. And like we have this space that we live in that's full of all of the things that we make everything mean with us and around our life. And the reality is that all they're really looking for is that opportunity. They would love to take that opportunity to get to that space. And the one thing about a coach that makes them that coach is able to listen in for and actually ask for them to share what it is that they're actually looking to get to. The truth is that people don't get what they want. They don't have what they want because they're in their own way. And so they live with these things in their space, and they live this life where they're not actually going for the things that they really want or the things that would make that difference for them. It could be fear that's in their way. It could be not taking action around it. It's different for everyone. For you, Maria, what would you say is something that you had like a breakthrough for you that really made a difference from our time together?
I think one of the biggest things for me was, as we were talking about personal agility and applying this concept, I was thinking more about it from like a systems and processes perspective, right? Like
Yeah.
from the like project management, agilist type of perspective. And
Yeah.
what I started to discover was it's actually so much more than just that. It's more than just a process or a system. It's actually getting clear about what's important. And I understand the words, what really matters, and that resonated me from the first time I heard them, though there was something that through our conversations we were able to tap into on a deeper level. And it's that doing the work, so to speak, that people refer to, where you look inward and you actually get more clear on what is the most meaningful thing about whatever you're trying to achieve, and not just the surface level, take the action, get the result. And so for
Right.
me, there was like more depth that was added as I explored that, and that concept of what does matter to me and why am I doing this and what's that deeper meaning and why
Mm.
is this important, rather than this logically makes sense, this system I understand, and let me just
Yeah.
go through the motion. So there's something much more deeper and meaningful for me.
Yeah. Um, that's perfect, because really, it's so much about um, that value that you have in your life, and no one can tell you what that value is but you. So the question that you have to ask for yourself is like, are you living a life you love and living it powerfully? Like, is this really what you want to be spending your time on? People live putting up with so many things. There's so many things that people allow to like uh, get in their way, or they just get stopped, or they don't take that next action step. Um, you know, and so they just live with dealing, and it all, the complaints become a suffering when you don't actually take action against those things. But for those things that you do want in your life, taking action for those things, and having new results, life transforms. I think one of the things that you got that I saw in you, a shift in you, was, transformation isn't something that you eventually get to. It's not. It's something that happens in a moment. And the reality is that it's the future you're living into that makes you who you are, not the past that informs you who you are. So it doesn't matter what you've been from the past up until this point. Now is the present, and from now forward, actually designing a life for yourself that is the future you're living into is what you can get excited about. But you need to take those actions to have the results. And when you consider what the value is versus the time that you spend, how much are you really getting from what you're spending your life on? Um,
Well, and John, I think this is a good point to segue into looking at the corporate world, right? So
yeah,
earlier today, we've already been talking with Linda Rising and a couple of other personal agility ambassadors, and they've been talking about the concept of, it starts with you. Like, we are people that work at companies. People are on teams. And so how does this translate into the corporate world? Like, we've got these organizations that are all transitioning toward Agile. There's been this role that's emerged of an Agile coach, right? So we've now talked about like what is coaching for an individual. What does this mean? And I love the phrase creating real change for people and companies. Like,
yeah.
what is really at the essential core of being able to be an effective Agile coach and create that real change? Can you tell us more about that?
So that's kind of a perfect transition. The moment for me that was really kind of a breakthrough moment was when I read Coaching Agile Teams, Lisa Adkins' book, and I noticed there were a number of distinctions in that book, and it was like, wow, this isn't by accident. This is somebody who's from this work, and I tripled down. I decided that everything from my personal life was now coming together with everything in my professional life, and so now I could have a life where I could really contribute the distinction that I had in my ability as a coach to those company environments. It was like, yes, finally, the work of transformation is coming to companies. Why is it real change? It's real change because it doesn't go back. This isn't something that you can fake. This isn't something that is, you're informed by the past. Again, it's actually the transformation happens in a moment's notice, and it doesn't go back. Now, just quick reference to the what people are dealing with in their lives. You have all of this unworkability that people are dealing with in their lives. And now you go to the corporate, the company environment, and you have the Agile coach. The Agile coach is really about process. And so now you have this coach for process. And obviously we've got this holy war now of frameworks that represent these processes. How many companies are actually achieving agility? Well, it's very few, if any. The ones that have created it for themselves, by themselves. So really, business agility isn't something that has been achieved from an out-of-the-box framework. And transformation itself, Agile coaches run into this resistance and sabotage to change. And we're wondering why they're not achieving business agility out of the box. It's because transformation is only 20% process. It's 80% people. And so you take the dynamic of these people not having their lives work in all the different ways that they don't work. And then that's what shows up at your company. And it's the people that make up the company. So what's missing is you have these people who have their lives aren't working. And they're the ones that are actually showing up at the company. And so there's this blind spot of, wow, it's actually the people that's, this company is not working for these people, and the people aren't working for the company. And then you have these coaches who bring their own kind of inauthenticities around money or meritocracy. Everybody's got needs, right? It's not like there's anything wrong with making money around coaching, but there's so much time spent on process and the looking good, where people are out there involved in their wars on LinkedIn and all of the different forums where they're arguing with themselves constantly around frameworks, and they're missing the opportunity, which is actually with the people. So now we have the new frontier of the Holy Wars, which will be in coaching. And so who is actually going to step up and really make the difference in the coaching space? You've got the Agilists didn't have personal or professional coaching in their space until maybe the last 3 to 5 years, when there's all of a sudden been a rush where everyone declares themselves a coach. And where is the cred that actually makes you that coach? Is it the certification? Is it playing all of the process roles? Is it that ICF says you're a coach? Is it that the Scrum Alliance says you're a coach? It's who's actually going to make that difference. And so really, I think your point about it's really the work, though, is actually owned by us. This work is for humanity. It's not actually for any of the money or the street cred or the meritocracy. It's actually for the people within the company. That's what actually matters. So that's really kind of the conundrum in itself is, where do we go from this? Where do we go from this point?
Yeah, that's so well said, John. So well said on so many fronts, because, it's so much deeper than, I love how you said, the process is only 20%, and it's that 80-20 rule, right? So if we're only focused on 20%, but that's not the 20% that's going to get the 80% of the results. There's all this other stuff that if you're not doing that, you're just focused on the 20% that is just a straight up 20%. It's the wrong 20%. So
Yes.
I'm curious, what would you recommend for people that are coaching now? Like, how can they deepen the level of coaching to help create more real change for organizations and the people in those organizations? Where would they begin? What would you recommend?
So perfect question. The place to go, and the good news is this: we've in the past, there's actually been these the waves of agility. It was announced a number of years ago, the waves of agility. So the first wave was Agile, and the second wave was Agile at scale, and the third wave was business agility. And it was like, all of a sudden, all of the Agile reports and all of the books and all of the the people paying attention to what was actually happening in companies are standing there calling it out, going, nope, third wave isn't happening. Very few and far between are actually having it happen. In fact, I would almost call that maybe none, maybe no out-of-the-box frameworks have actually made that difference, that it's actually been the companies. There are companies that have achieved business agility, but they've kind of done it for themselves and by themselves. So the vision for the future looks like this. I actually see that the fourth wave, and this is something that they started to talk about at the 20th reunion for the manifesto. I was waiting for it to come out. I thought it was going to be obvious. It was like, okay, so what's the fourth wave? Well, I'll declare that the fourth wave is about the people. This is going to be about personal agility. It's going to be about transformational education. It's going to be about professional coaching. It's going to be about making the difference for the people. That's where this has got to go. We've been missing some of the highest valued, greatest part in impacting where transformation really happens. It happens with the people. So I'll declare that the fourth wave is about the people. I'm actually going to venture in my vision that I think that the fifth wave has to do with work that I've done with G5. And what that looks like is that there's ecosystems, bodies of work that exist out there that are all going to make the difference to really achieve business agility. And what that looks like is a combination of personal agility, career agility, coaching agility, change model agility, as well as, and for those four, those will make it possible to achieve business agility. It's going to be ecosystems of ecosystems. One of the things that's getting in the way of having business agility be possible is the fact that those 5 points, those 5 ecosystems have not actually come together to optimize for business agility. And so you have people and bodies of work that are fighting with each other. And it's not just, let's say, in the agile space that people are fighting with each other. Oh, my framework's better than your framework, and they're in their own holy wars. It's actually that there are multiple communities of people in these ecosystems that are running in the same direction. And it would be more valuable to collaborate than it would be to continue to compete with each other. I worked with Lorraine Golden for all of 2019 on this work to come up with G5. Just wanted to call out a credit to her as well. So then I'm actually going to take it a next step. So I've called out the fourth wave, which is people. The fifth wave, which is business agility, only becomes possible when all 5 ecosystems, personal, business, career, coach, and change model agility, come together to make business agility possible. And here's the sixth wave. The sixth wave has to do with achieving global agility. Every one of the country ecosystems has influences that I refer to as the germs. So the germs are the government, economic, religious, media, and social influences within those countries. Countries have parameters that we refer to as borders, and every one of those country ecosystems has the influences of germs at different levels and scales within each of their different company ecosystems. One of the things that Agile and Agility have noticed is that over this past couple of years, including an acceleration during this pandemic, we have seen an acceleration of people's ability to span borders, operate from no borders, and literally begin to create a level of global agility. What's going to make it possible to accelerate to that global agility is when G5 is achieved and we have an ability to address the germs within those country ecosystems, so that the interoperation of people, between people, and across borders, the world becomes borderless, and we start to achieve a global level of agility.
John, I really appreciate the depth of which you've thought through all of these areas, and I appreciate that sixth level of looking at the global scale, right? So if we look at, you have the people that make up the organizations, and then we have all these different parameters and borders, and even over the last year, there's been a lot of divisiveness throughout the U.S. and across countries. And what is the real purpose of this? And even in conversations I've had with Alistair Coburn, he has the Heart of Agile and the Heart of Agile Academy, and they have communities of practice and dialogue, communities of dialogue that are happening around the world. And one of the things that they've done is they've added at the center of the heart of this picture is impacting humanity. And it's so much deeper, again, than the system or the process. There's something greater here. There's something about how we interact with each other. There's something about how we interact with each other to create real products and services that help people, that create a positive impact in the world. And then how
Yes.
can we communicate and collaborate more effectively? Agile's so big on collaboration, but not just within a company. How can we do this
Yeah.
across industries, as people, across communities, across so many different parameters or potentially even invisible lines? And so
Yeah.
I really appreciate how your thinking is going to that global scale and how we can
Yep.
have a greater impact beyond just the individual, beyond just the company, and really on the largest scale possible.
Yeah.
John, as we get ready to wrap up here, we've got just a few minutes left. Is there anything else that you'd like to share? I greatly appreciate just what you've shared so far from your coaching stance and how this applies to the organization and agile coaches that are looking at creating positive change and the focus on the people rather than just the process. Is there anything else you'd like to share with us as we close out today?
So, a few final thoughts. I would say that it's not the job that you are, it's the you that's your job. Um, you know, this isn't like some big dress rehearsal. Like, this is it. And your most valuable resource in this life is your time. So, how are you going to spend it? Do something that, that when you go to sleep every night, that you're being who you are. Because it's hard. What's actually hard is not taking action that matches your heart. So I think that's really kind of the final thoughts of that I would have to share. People come to the work for at Landmark Education for every area of life that's important to them. So that's going to include your family, your relationships, your finances, your career. It's incredible how many people come for money or finance interests that they want to generate for themselves. And then on the flip side, we now here in the Agile space are looking at an opportunity to make that contribution for those people that have training and development in distinction from Landmark Education. I think that's something that really is landing for me as a final thought. We're coming to the other side of a pandemic, and so many people. I think this was one of the most amazing things, one of the most amazing times. I think if there's a correction that coaches need to take, it was like the world wasn't standing there asking for bring on the Agilists. Where are the Agilists? They weren't looking for that kind of space. What they actually did was adaptive themselves, and if anything, it was one of the greatest times for us to see and represent to ourselves how much we're actually out of alignment. What the world is really looking for is certain levels of alignment. They want to seek those things that really work for them. Yes, being at home was more challenging, but you got to spend more time with your family. You got to spend more time with yourself. You could view the pandemic as a giant tragedy, or you could view the pandemic as an opportunity to pivot and create something new for yourself in your life. What did you do with your pandemic? Did you live it out like it was a long suffering, or did you actually pivot and turn it into something that became an opportunity for you? For me, it was like I was a submarine in a hurricane. Um, do something with it, right? Reach out and start to create those relationships that you haven't lived into before. Connect with your family like you haven't connected before. People claim that they want to have time off for themselves. You just had a whole pandemic. What did you do with it?
I
So,
I appreciate, John, so much the look at the whole person, and we have that choice. And as we show up more fully in our lives, we can make a greater impact in the world around us, in the company, in the environment that we are in, and really ultimately looking at what's the world that we want to live in at the larger scale. So, John, thank you so much for joining us. It was an
yes,
absolute pleasure having this conversation, and
thank you so much.
I'm confident that there's a lot of insights that people are going to walk away with as we look at coaching in a different light, look at agile coaching, and look at the impact that we can make as people in our own lives with the choices and taking personal responsibility for that, and then the impact, the positive impact we can make in the companies that we work in, and then the greater result on humanity. So thank you so much, John. It's an absolute pleasure having you join us.
Thank you, Maria.